Welcome, seekers of wisdom, to Rhema of God, where we open the ancient scrolls to hear a word for our hearts today. Our subject is one of the most perplexing and profoundly relevant episodes in Scripture. The 40 years the Israelites spent wandering in the wilderness. The journey from the ecstatic triumph of the Red Sea to the borders of the Promised Land should have been brief, a matter of weeks, not decades. The distance from Egypt to Kadesh Barnea, the gateway to Canaan, is only about 150 miles. So why did a 2-week journey become a 40-year sentence? The answer isn't found on a map, but in the human heart. After the miraculous crossing of the Red Sea, God led his people by a pillar of cloud and fire to Mount Sinai. There, at that thunderous mountain, they received the law and entered into a covenant marriage with Yahweh himself. They built the tabernacle, a dwelling place for God's glory. From Sinai, they traveled to Kadesh Barnea, right on the very threshold of the promise. This was the moment of decision. Moses, acting on God's command, sent 12 spies into the land. After 40 days, but 10 of the spies brought back a report filled with fear. They said, "The land devours its inhabitants, and we seem to ourselves like grasshoppers." They saw the giants in the land, the Nephilim, and their faith just evaporated. Only 2 men, Caleb and Joshua, saw through eyes of faith. They declared, "The land is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord delights in us, he will bring us into this land and give it to us." But the people were swayed by the majority report. They wept and rebelled. They cried out, "Would that we had died in the land of Egypt." And the Ben sighed, "Let us choose a leader and go back to Egypt in Derphia." They rejected the promise of God. And here we find the divine verdict. The Lord declares, "According to the number of the days in which you spied out the land, 40 days, a year for each day, you shall bear your iniquity. 40 years, and you shall know my displeasure." Every one of that faithless generation, from 20 years old and upward, would die in the wilderness. Only Caleb and Joshua, the men of faith, would enter the land. So, you see, their prolonged stay wasn't a navigational error. It was a judicial and educational act of God. The wilderness became a graveyard for a slave mentality, a place where the old generation of unbelief had to die off. Let's trace their footsteps, not as a mere travel itinerary, but as a map of a spiritual journey. After leaving Egypt, they crossed the Red Sea and entered the wilderness of Shur. They camped at Marah, where bitter waters were made sweet, and at Elim with its 12 springs. They reached the wilderness of Sin, where manna first fell from heaven, and then came to reach where water flowed from a rock, and Joshua fought Amalek. Then, that pivotal encounter at Mount Sinai. After their failure at Kadesh Barnea, they were told to turn back by the way to the Red Sea. Their wanderings are a list of seemingly aimless journeys, circling the lands of Edom and Moab. For nearly 40 years, they traversed the vast, desolate expanse of the wilderness of Paran and Zin, a landscape as barren as their fathers' faith. Their journey was a great circle of divine discontent, until that faithless generation had passed away. Finally, the next generation was prepared at the plains of Moab, across the Jordan from Jericho, ready to trust and to conquer. So, what is the Rhema? The living word for us today. The wilderness wandering is a powerful, sobering allegory for the Christian life. We have all been delivered from our Egypt, the bondage of sin. We have all been baptized, as they were in the cloud and the sea. But deliverance from sin's penalty doesn't instantly eradicate a slave mentality. The moral is this: unbelief forfeits promise, and God is more concerned with forming your character than with rushing you to your destination. The Israelites were saved from Egypt, but Egypt was not yet saved from them. They carried its fear, its idolatry, and its doubt in their hearts. The wilderness was the crucible where God sought to teach them daily dependence on His manna, His guiding presence, and His word. It was designed to kill the old man so a new generation, trained in trust, could arise. The Apostle Paul confirms this in 1 Corinthians 10, stating, "These things took place as examples for us." Our own wilderness experiences those times of waiting, testing, and seeming delay, not evidence of God's absence, but of His profound teaching. He is dismantling our self-reliance, exposing the idols of our hearts, and teaching us to walk by faith, not by sight. The journey isn't just about getting you to the promised land. It's about getting the promised land into you. Do not despise the wilderness, beloved, for in that place of total dependence, you will truly learn to know the God who is both your cloud and your fire. If this word has spoken to you, share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, walk in faith, not in fear. Shalom.